I only play Insurgency for PvP. I don't really stray into co-op. What I've tried to do is be a bit conscious of not making a guide that's too prescriptive. So here's a collection of 21 points I've put together covering mechanics, loadouts, and general game awareness. I'm expecting people to have some basic knowledge of how the game plays. My tips are focusing on things that you might be able to incorporate into your own gameplay to mix with your own playstyles, and generally just have that game knowledge to suit whatever a round throws at you. The number one liability isn't your player movement or the sound that your gun makes, it's actually your character's ambient sounds. The characters in Insurgency will react to explosions, gunfire, being suppressed. The other disadvantage is that they react and they cough very loudly and smoke. So do yourself a favor, grab the mask if you're on security, it only costs a point, and that way you're going to be muffled for the entire game, and you have something to protect you against chemical mortars. The three most effective ways to take a helicopter is to either take a sniper rifle and try and shoot the pilots out, take an MG3 as a gunner, which you can essentially just mag dump into, and 3, run around with an RPG and try and hit it. The way you're going to hit it with an RPG is if you get under the helicopter or behind it. Any rocket coming in from the front or the side will make the helicopter evade it. Even if you are missing rockets, it still delays the helicopter because it will stop it from firing and make it reposition. Don't be frustrated because you're buying valuable seconds for your team. There is some merit in wearing armor in the sense that it protects you from explosions, but 9 times out of 10 you're going to get shot. Armor also only protects your vital organs, so if you get hit in the arm or the leg, it's not really going to do you any favors. Furthermore, it's expensive and it's heavy, so you might as well save the points, and you'll also save the weight. Staying on the same subject, on stuff you can put on your character. Anything your character equips that goes over the ice, i.e. glasses, combat goggles, even the helmet with the new face shield is a significant disadvantage because these items are incredibly reflective in badly lit rooms, so very dark corners, and more crucially, you actually stick out a lot in smoke. Another area I find is useful is use the tactical reload. Double tap the reload key. It will automatically drop your mag. Although pistols are very useful and are much faster, I prefer to spend the points on attachments instead. If you want to run light and you're using a bolt action rifle, a revolver, or just messing around with a shotgun, you can actually run around without any sort of ammo carrier. If you run up to the ammo box when you spawn, hit F to rearm, you'll actually pick up some extra rounds, which is really useful if you want just enough ammo to get you through while keeping a low profile. I usually do this when I'm playing marksman because it means that I'm not wearing a carrier on my back and you're a lot more concealed because you have such a small hitbox. The other advantages, if you're running and gunning, you obviously are a lot more speedy and you can really push objectives quite quickly. One mechanic that has really saved me a lot is sliding. So on PC this is bound with control. Using that off the edge of roofs, rocks while you sprint will increase your momentum significantly into a slide if you're maintaining that speed, and it'll also help minimize your hitbox because you're crouching. Try and use it when you're either crossing an open area. Try and also use it when you're on the move because it's a really great way to avoid fire, makes you less predictable and harder to hit, and it can also get you out of some pretty sticky situations. Two other notable mentions for movement. One would be use the walk key when you can. It'll help your concealment as it will muffle your footsteps. The other one is trying to use crouch jumping where possible. So it's a good alternative to vaulting because you're going to be locked into an animation. Crouch jumping will allow you to just do that transition a lot quicker. It saves you time and it also keeps you on the move. try and not be against a backdrop that's a completely different color to you, i.e. blue sky. Because if somebody's looking up at you, they're going to spot you very easily because of your character model not really blending in with the environment. And the odd shape on the horizon is just a dead giveaway, which usually results in, well, yeah, I mean, instant death. One thing I find works quite well at the expense of weapon control and long distances is actually sitting behind cover, staying in crouch. And that gives you the time to reposition, get behind cover effectively, and try another angle. If you're prone in that situation and you get tapped, you're not going to get up in time to avoid the follow-up shot. I'd encourage you to also use this strategy when you're on top of a roof, for example, or when you're in a building. So I think it goes without saying, if you're in a building and you're looking out the window, try and use the space you have available in the room that the window is looking over. Try and move back a bit and really hold the angle and use the window to your advantage. Don't run up to the end, stick your barrel out, because again, that's just a dead giveaway for anybody looking in the same direction as you. On defense as insurgents and push, you usually get 2 to 3 big attacks on the objective. And one dead giveaway is when the enemy team is calling in air support. So ask yourself, is there a helicopter? Can you hear one coming in? That's usually a time that the enemy will start pushing. Are they putting down smoke? These things help you to prepare for an attack and try and fend them off for another wave. When an enemy team reaches 0 waves, the entire map is unlocked. So depending on what kind of mood you're in and how sweaty you want to play, you can set up some horrible ambushes. For those of you that like to be a bit more suicidal and KD isn't really an issue, equipping a Molotov as insurgents will mean that when you die, you'll actually drop it at your character's feet. The radius of this means that you'll be able to catch anybody else within that area and take them down with you. The areas that you kind of switch off are the main routes that are the perfect flanking opportunities for the enemy team, because they can try and catch you off guard. So in this clip, you see me cap the next point without anybody really being prepared for it, by staying on the periphery and staying around the objective on their side. And the majority of the kills are me just picking off players that are en route to the objective, not even defending it. As I'm protecting the objective, I'm also trying to look for visual cues. So I'm looking at the icon of the objective, and when it flashes, it tells me that somebody's just gone into the room I just came out of. I'm also using audio cues, listening for footsteps, character sounds, or even trying to pick up any enemy voice comms in all the confusion. Okay, so hear me out on this one. Have a think about places you could be that make you a lot less predictable. Can you use a cupboard, say, to get a bit of extra height? Can you get behind something that will really increase your chances of surviving? It's all about thinking creatively. With that in mind, you can definitely increase your survivability, but also be a bit more proactive and anticipate where an enemy might be coming in to make their life harder. On death, the camera will slowly pan from your body towards where the impact came from, and 9 times out of 10 you're gonna see the person that killed you if they're still stationary. A good way to counter that is to keep moving after you kill somebody, either repositioning somewhere or just completely relocating. When it's done right, you can actually get the enemy to run straight towards your last location. And to be honest, that only benefits you as a player because they are going to be so much more predictable. Use this opportunity as well to think about your exit. If you get stuck in a bad situation, you can just dip. If you miss the placement of a command order, you can actually keep calling it in until the observer finishes his call. This lets you to correct that critical airstrafe before it starts chopping up your teammates. So that's really useful if you misclick, for example, and think you have to commit to that now and that asset being wasted. That's absolutely not the case, and you can keep correcting as much as you need to. The visual cue here for it to be confirmed is for station to actually confirm the order, and then you'll see the flare pop up, which shows where the asset is going to be targeting. The Quickdraw grip makes your animation for swapping things faster, and I've recently learned that you can also throw back grenades a lot quicker because the animation is sped up. It's a point well spent if you like to use different things in your loadout, so using an RPG, an explosive launcher, or even a flashbang to clear out a room. When it comes to reducing recoil, you can adjust the horizontal recoil by putting on a compensator, and alternatively you can start controlling the vertical recoil using a recoil grip. While both are really useful and allow you to recover a lot and provide a bit more leniency, especially if you like to spray with your gun, I find the recoil grip is really useful for those high kick caliber weapons. So I'm thinking G3A3, FAL, or any AK. The laser sight is incredibly visible in Versus, and in most, if not all cases, just serves as a way to give your position away to the enemy. I see this countless times in a lot of Versus games. People just put smoke in front of you, and not only does it blind the team, but it also means that as you run through it, you can't actually see what's behind it. The other important thing to note about smoke is that it's sometimes client-side. What I mean by that is you might see thick smoke, but the person on the other team might not really see much, or it's a lot more translucent for them. So it's pretty up and down, but as long as you're not wearing goggles, which is the #1 giveaway, you'll be absolutely fine. Regardless of it being client-side, if you're putting a smoke grenade onto an enemy, they won't be seeing, even 2 feet in front of them in most instances, which is a perfect time for you to push. Feel free to experiment with smoke launchers as well, especially if you're trying to put smoke at distance. You can actually get your teammate to pick up an IED or a C4 and get it that much closer to an enemy player. They'll be a lot slower than running, and they'll have to keep holding the pickup button, but it's also just a very funny way to try and get a kill.
Look, you give me an explosive and you tell me to go blow myself up? Fuck yes.
Go, Frosty, go.
Stop shooting me!
Yes, go, Frosty, you breach.
Oh no!
It didn't work.
I don't think that's a very NATO-friendly tactic.
There's a few things I'm looking at when I'm glancing at my map. If an objective has been taken, where are the new spawn locations and where are my ammo boxes? Crucially, this gives me information on the direction the enemy will be and where their reinforcement waves will be running from. Are there any opportunities to try a flank on a less busy part of the map? So I can see there's a cluster of my teammates here. Is it possible to try and take a quieter route and try and get to the objective that way? It's also a good way to see where your teammates are dying and hopefully unpick some of the spots that the other team is using. Comms in any online game are really useful to coordinate with a team, but in Insurgency it's a bit of a double-edged sword. If you're running your mouth throughout the whole game, the enemy team can hear you, and it's going to be very easy for someone to place your position. So use comms sparingly, perhaps use them in the spawn screen, or at a distance away from where most of the fighting's taking place.
I'm smelling your fear.
You shouldn't have talked.
It's hilarious.
If you have any of your own tips or you think I've missed anything out that really helped you, feel free to drop them in the comments. It's likely that I probably won't read them, but thanks anyway.
Okay, I fuck with the genuine, you don't resemble it, real is familiar, and we haven't met. I think you're just a random, and your name is anything matter of fact, family. Who the hell let you in? I smoke